Good evening, everyone. We're back for another kind of somewhat of a surprise Rapido event. I know we already kind of launched what we were doing earlier this afternoon in our newsletter on Facebook, but we're going to be chatting about that today. A couple of other things. So we've got John Sheridan just below me there.
How's it going, eh?
Hey, he's the man behind the new U28 and also the H16.
25.
What 25? Sorry, I think somebody made that mistake earlier today. I can't remember who it was. It said it was like a 28, and it's like, no, it's 20.
Inflation.
The 25's coming later. Oops.
And we've got Craig Walker, of course, with the Santa Fe tugboat. Is that out of the Bay Area?
We're doing a tugboat, right?
Sure. What does Jason always say? The first one cost $250,000. The rest of them are
Fairly cheap.
$69.95 or something like that.
And then we have New Hampshire in the corner.
Yes, exactly. New Hampshire, Paul. So Paul Cutler III. He is, I guess, one of the newer employees.
Newest
Employees, just kind of joined up very recently. He's, I guess, what are we going to call you? Our official rivet counter?
New Hampshire.
Nitpicker, maybe.
Yeah.
Nitpicker extraordinaire.
Exactly.
Bringer of tears.
At least that's accurate.
Exactly.
And just to let everybody know, when Paul reviews one of our models now, he turns in like, a 60-page manifesto on what is possibly wrong.
Exactly.
And in no particular order either.
No,
random order. The most important stuff goes around point 42.
Yeah. And he made Dan Donnell cry.
Who hasn't?
Exactly. All right, so I guess we'll jump right into it. Obviously, we've already kind of talked a little about it. We have announced our all-new U25B. That was earlier today. John's project. So why don't I pull that up on the screen here, right to our website. Just hold on one sec, and then I will let John take over in just 1 second.
Sure.
There we go. So this is the U25 project, NHO. Take it away.
So we decided to do the U25. One of the first things we decided is, well, which ones are we going to do? Because there are so many variations. I mean, there's 4 major versions. And so it's kind of hard to pin down which ones we really want to do first. And the most difficult, to be honest with you, is the phase 4s, which are the last versions, which had completely different handrails, different walkways. They had a sloped short hood, things like that. They didn't match, the parts didn't match the earlier versions. Of course, the phase 1 is a completely different creature too, but nobody's ever done those, so we decided to tackle them too. So essentially, the U25 project is really like 3 models in one. It's 3 different models. You got the phase 1 units, which are the high hoods, which were all pretty similar in appearance, and then you have the phase 2s, which have all the if you look on the long hood, all the doors are high. They have all high doors all the way across. And phase 2 to phase 3, they had the last 4 doors were shortened. So you can see those represented. The phase 2, you can see that represented the Santa Fe unit. You'll see all the tall doors and things like that. Then the New Haven, Erie, Lackawanna, Great Northern have the shorter hood, the shorter door, full last 4 doors. They all shared the same single window front cab, the same type of short nose. Where the big variation came in, and all these units, is the battery boxes on the engineer side are all different. They were a lot of them are road specific.
Yeah, the Santa Fe units, they were only Santa Fe for that particular version.
That is correct. They are Santa Fe units. They were early phase 2 units, and they were the only units so far, from what I can tell, could possibly be others, that have the engineer side the air filters is the long version as opposed to the shorter version, which is the standard bread and butter for the rest of the U25s.
There are some other long ones. You just haven't gotten to them yet.
I just haven't gotten to them yet. And oddly enough, the New York Central has that long air cleaner on the rear on the other side, as opposed to this side on the Santa Fe's. So
And
it's a
for the record, 2 Santa Fe's don't have them on either side.
right. They don't have them at all. So if you buy a ton of Santa Fe's, we'll actually do those. So if you buy a bajillion Santa Fe units, we'll actually do the ones that have no air cleaners on the back at all.
Yeah, that's I think this in the photo here. That's 1614. That's one of the
Yeah.
the version that doesn't have any of the that's the
Yeah. Why would you use that?
We're not making that one, and we put the photo in.
No, it was at the time it was the only photo we had, but we do have
We have more
photos that are going to be going up.
Nobody
on the
asked
website in the
me.
next day or two. So
I know it was the website designer. Have him killed.
we forgot to tell Craig until this afternoon that we were doing a U25. So
It's
Yeah,
all new
we-
to me.
Yeah, it's all news to him, even though he did the research.
yeah,
So anyway, the New Haven, Erie Lackawanna, and Great Northern, especially the Erie Lackawanna and Great Northern, are very similar in appearance. They were pretty much the bread and butter U25s that GE built. And now the U25 is GE's first locomotive they actually built on their own, if I remember correctly.
Road engine, yeah.
Right,
They
road
have
engine.
44 tonners, 70 tonners.
They
exactly.
did a lot of small stuff, but this is the first like serious road number. The New Haven and Penn Central are the exact same model, because all the New Haven units from 2660 to 2669 went over to Penn Central as is. So they're pretty much duplicates. So if we're
Same.
doing Penn, and as people in Rapido know, if we're doing New Haven, we end up doing Penn Central because they all went to Penn Central. So to do them is really easy.
And these also landed in Conrail later on. So
Oh yeah, which we will be doing later.
Yeah.
I've already heard the begging and pleading for Conrail. We will do Conrail units too.
And I'll just put a note in there too. Of course, this as always, this is just our first release. We like to do about 8 paint schemes per locomotive run. We learned the hard way with the SW1200 project.
Yeah, we don't want to do
wanna
27 different paint schemes and variations, which
Yeah.
drive people to distraction. So
Exactly.
And then people complain about what we didn't make.
right, doesn't matter. So we limited this to basically 8 paint schemes. Well, roughly 9 paint schemes, but approximately we try to shoot for 8. You know, it's either 7 or 9, somewhere around there, so we can keep it simple and keep the factory from reaching out and trying to kill us with all the variations.
And make it
Because-
so it's not so expensive for the customers too.
True. So anyway, the weird part about the U25s is most U25s on the fireman side.
And windows.
Well, yes, they have that. But on the fireman side, they're all pretty much the same, you know, except for the phase ones. The phase ones are completely on their own. And but phase 2 to phase 4, the doors were all the same.
And
Oddly
let me
enough.
interrupt for a second, John. Phase 1, for those of you who aren't intimately familiar with them like we are, is the high-nosed engine.
Yes.
So,
Which is basically the demonstrator, St. Louis, San Francisco, and Union Pacific.
right.
I'll actually see if I can. Let me stop sharing for 1 sec. I'll see if I can dig up some photos, and then we can.
Yeah.
We can put that up.
Giddy up.
1 sec here. We got lots of photos of the high noses that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Surprising enough, not being a Western model, or St. Louis, San Francisco seemed to be immensely popular. More popular than I thought.
mhm.
It's all one guy.
Yeah, it's all one guy talking very loudly.
That's a
So here
fresh-
we are. Now, this is now interesting, is that in the Union Pacific units, we only did 625 to 629. We did those 4 units. And the reason why we did that is because they had the standard truck. The higher numbers, I believe 630 to 639, I quote me if I'm wrong, the truck was different. The truck had completely different brake cylinders and things like that. We'll do those in later runs if, of course, we sell 1 million UP models.
Mhm.
But otherwise, they were exactly the same as the rest. But if the brake cylinders and the layout of the brake cylinders is actually almost different per truck. So they have like 2 rear ones, 2 front ones that are not the same. It's kind of weird, but it's Union Pacific. So if you look at this one right here, whoops, go back one. So if you look right here, you can see the oddball where the levers are for the brake cylinders and the pistons. They're completely different than the trucks on the earlier units, which is the standard, Alco type truck.
Now, were these built with trade-in trucks, or were these brand new factory originals?
I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say these are rebuilt trucks.
Mhm.
I don't know. I would say they were built new at GE. So who was trading something in?
I don't know, because the St. Louis, San Francisco one, the demonstrators don't look like these trucks at all. Only the Union Pacific ones had these trucks. So I'm going to guess they traded something in.
Might have.
But it's Union Pacific, so who knows?
Although these GE did build turbines, and these are the same basically as turbine trucks. So
Yeah.
On the early turbines.
What was the number series again that we're doing for you?
625 through 620, 625 to 629 or 628.
So
It's the early numbers. Yeah, 629 is right there. That's the standard one. So it's the early units,
Mhm.
the early number units. Those are the ones we picked. And of course, Union Pacific being Union Pacific kept changing the logos on the nose. So some had Union Pacific, some had just the numbers, some had both, some had neither, blah, blah, blah.
Different typefaces.
Yeah, different typefaces, different things like that. Enough to make me crazy.
Of course.
Okay, go back one. See, the number boards are yellow. Now go forward one, and they're gray.
Yep,
Yeah.
It's 28.
That's why I have no hair. I pulled it out.
Almost the same time. This one's a little bit later. This is December 1970, and this is August 67. So, well, that one's looking quite beat up. So.
See the different air cylinders there?
And by the way, in the artwork, before anybody starts screaming, complaining, I did not make them gray. We use a standard color for silver. We use Pantone 877 for silver.
Mhm.
So I made them 877 for silver, and that tells the factory to paint them silver, not gray. It just shows up as gray because it's not easy to put metallic silver in artwork. So we use a standard color for that the factory knows to make them, silvery, shall we say.
And also keep in mind that the artworks we have there are very early mock-ups.
Yes.
We're going to be doing revisions and various upgrades.
Yes, and Paul hasn't gone through them to drive me to distraction yet.
Exactly.
he'll send me a 60-page manifesto on what's wrong with the artwork.
Yeah. Your homework this weekend due on Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. So one of the things we do now,
He said doo-doo.
I said doo-doo is correct. One of the things we've implemented at Rapido is the fact that we all as project managers get together and we review each other's design and artwork now. And we pick up, because being a guy, if you're looking at the thing all day long, your brain tends to cancel out like obvious things because you've kind of checked it off in your head. So what we do is we bring the other designers in who haven't even worked on this project, and we basically pick it to pieces.
Rip it to shreds. More
We
like.
rip it to shreds, but it comes out with a better model and better artwork. And then after we rip it to shreds, we hand it to Paul, who completely eviscerates it and makes us mental cases. And then we fix it some more. So that's being reflected in the products that are coming out now.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, John, you might want to point out that the pilots and the step wells on the phase ones that we're looking at now are radically different than on the other phases.
Yes, they are radically different. And of course,
The fuel tanks.
yep, the fuel tanks are completely different. The air tanks are different. The whole layout's different. They changed it when the phase twos came out. They changed the whole thing around. So if you notice, they got the rounded pilots, the different steps, all that kind of cool stuff. So, but they were, I think they were well worth doing because nobody's ever done a phase one unit before.
No, absolutely not. But
No, except in brass. Brass doesn't count.
Have they done them in brass?
Now you
Yeah.
can finish Brian Marsh.
Yeah, they've done them in brass, but like way long ago. And one of the hardest things we tackled in this project is to work with the factory to get the class lights you see up the corners there in actually the right position. So on the model, they're in the correct position where you see them in the original locomotive. And that requires a 4-part slide to do that, which increases the cost of the slide, but it ends up being an accurate part.
Most molds are 4-slide. This is 8-slide.
I thought it was 4-slide.
Well, 4-slide, 2 sides, 2 ends.
Yeah, 2 ends, so it's 8. Yeah, but
But there's more little bits that move in and out to enable us to core the holes for the class lights at a non-standard angle.
Yep.
But that's the kind of work we do for our customers.
Yeah, this is the lengths we go.
We're insane.
And this also, this affects both the low nose and the high nose U25. So we're going to have the operating class lights on both versions.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, again, we did the earlier phases, which allows us to do just about anything in the earlier section. Like I said, again, the phase 4s, which have a completely different set of handrails, which requires a different walkway to mount the handrails and all that stuff. And it requires a short nose that is sloped as opposed to straight. We're going to do those in later runs. So, and one of the big things one of the early but big things we really did with these units is the radiator in the rear there, or front, depending on your road name. The radiator, we actually put the fans and the blower in there. So we actually stuck it in there.
Let me see if I can find that.
Yes, find that render.
Give me one sec. Talk
I
away
insisted on that.
And somebody's already commented or asked, what are those going to be see-through grills? Yes, they are.
Why, yes, they are.
We want you to see that fan housing and the dynamic brakes if it has dynamic brakes.
Yep.
Which are also behind the grill.
And there's also what, 3 variations of those screens that we will be doing?
3 or 4. Rock Island had far grills on a few.
Yeah, Rock Island.
Not very see-through, but they look great.
I know.
There we go.
Steel.
There it is.
Ooh, that's
so those 2 shafts, at the top of those 2 shafts are the fans for the radiators on the roof. And yes, those fans are in there.
And this is the model. It's not a prototype photo or something of an engine in.
There it is. So you can see the fans are there. So all that's there and you can see right through it, because that was the one thing about the U25s we discussed early on the project is that, and I brought it up, I said, if there's no dynamic brake, you see right through that whole assembly, right to the other side. And so we got to put something back there.
Yeah, especially you see some of like the I believe it was like L&N and a couple of those other roads that didn't use them, and it's almost it looks almost like a tunnel motor. There's just nothing there.
New Haven.
Yeah, of course.
And a shout out to Greg Summers, who got us photos of that area.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. He did a fantastic job. You know, and of course we measured a few units. We measured the SP one, which was the one we scanned, which gave us the overall dimensions, the correct dimensions. Of course, the SP one has a completely different set of doors than any of the others because they did a rebuild on it.
Yeah,
but
2500, and there was another 2501, I believe. It was just a pair of units rebuilt, and the program.
There's two.
There's two.
But they had 4 numbers, so that's 4 SKUs we could do.
Exactly. Yep. Plus the bicentennial.
So in addition to this, I sent a couple of our minions up to the Erie Railroad Museum, which has the New York Central U25 2500 sitting up there, which they measured to death. And then Paul and I went down to what was it, New England? Who was that, Paul?
Railroad Museum of New England in Thomaston, Connecticut.
Yes, we went down to Railroad Museum in Thomaston and measured 2525, which is actually a phase 4, but it's the same. It has the same car body, the same long hood as the phase 3s and everything else. So the New York Central was a phase 2, and like the Santa Fe and all those, and the 2525 is a phase 4 with a phase 3 car body. So we were able to measure that. So there was actually surviving units that we can actually measure, and we measured them, boy.
And it was actually very fortunate because there are several that are around the country. So there's the Milwaukee unit.
Yep.
It's kind of unusual that you see that sometimes, that several different versions of the same type of locomotive.
Craig, wasn't the Milwaukee unit the one that Greg measured?
It is. It's at Illinois Railway Museum.
Yep.
Yeah, he sent us photos of that, all the measurements and stuff.
Illinois Railway Museum.
Illinois.
Californians.
Oh, I know. I'm from New England, y'all.
Call it the IRM.
Yeah, you mispronounce everything.
Yeah, we mispronounce. We slaughter everything. But we were here long before you.
Wait a minute. We say the words correctly. Everybody else is wrong.
That's right. We were here. We were here in the 17th century. Damn you.
That's what Canadians say about their spelling too. Just because they do it the British way.
Yeah, I know. We excuse them for that. So anyway, that's basically the U25 in a nutshell. Of course, there's the pilots for the rest of the units.
Yeah.
They did have different steps
Yeah.
there. Well, the steps are pretty much the same. It's the pilot steps were different
but
on different units.
Step wells are radically different than on the phase one, where they're vertical and there's holes cut into a big piece of sheet metal.
Yep.
These are the more traditional steps.
Yep, and those are photo etch steps,
Yeah,
and
there we go.
even on the phase one, they are photo etch steps, you know, with the holes in them and everything.
Yeah, you can see through it.
And one of the things we did that we really with the town on, Paul and I did this, is if you see the anti-skid on the walkways, we actually counted the dots. GE uses little dots. They don't use diamond tread, but they use little dots. We actually counted and measured the little dots, so they're the right amount of dots on there. We did. In the freezing cold New England winter, we were out there counting dots like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, you're used to the cold.
No, this was cold with cold in it. It was cold that day. So anyway, you know, some of the other things is, like I said, you can see that short hood. That's how that looks. That's pretty much I think that's the Erie Lackawanna unit. By the way, these are all my scans off my computer. So what we do is we actually scan the model. I actually render the model itself, the CAD renderings of the model, and this is what comes out.
And
So-
just to be clear, pun intended, the windows come out looking gray because it doesn't know if it's transparent or not when he's
Yeah.
rendered.
If I color the unit in, which I've done to some previous things, I didn't have time to do it. I can actually make those windows transparent.
But the windows will be Rhodamine Red as in the drawings, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Red tint, yes, of course.
Yeah, so we'll just red tint them. You won't be able to see through them. They'll be fine. But you can see,
Of course, there.
this is a feature right here that Matt kind of caught. And he caught it in an obscure shot of one of the St. Louis, San Francisco shots way in the background, is that the short hood had a roof hatch. You can see the roof hatch right there, and it's clearly there. And Matt happened to, when Matt and I were talking about it, he goes, "Hey, how come you're not putting the roof hatch on?" I said, "What roof hatch?" And of course he did the enhanced thing. And we zoomed in on this photo from like way far in the yard, and there it was, the hatch itself. And it
Wait.
had a grab iron on it and latches.
You mean Paul didn't catch it?
No, Paul did not catch it. This is before Paul.
Well, wait.
Oh, yeah. Bring the
It's still
time.
pretty new, so.
So, you know, the St. Louis and San Francisco one is the only one we're doing in this run that has a rotating beacon on the roof.
Yep.
It has a I think a four post rotating beacon, I think they call it. So it'll have the beacon and it'll operate.
Mhm.
So we'll be putting that on. There's the phase 2, phase 3 fuel tanks. This is the standard one. On the rear there, you can see where the filter is, not the filter, but the water trap is. And on the Erie Lackawannas, that's different, which we represented on the Erie Lackawanna units. We put a different water trap on there. But all that plumbing is there.
Left.
Hmm?
I said the rear is to the left.
Right, the rear is to the left, excuse me. But yeah, and there's the earlier phase. It was very hard to find photos of the underframe in the phase ones, but we managed to catch, again, the water trap. It was in the back of the truck between right in the middle there. So we managed to catch that.
Yep.
And like I said, all the plumbing's there, all the gauges and everything will be there, and all that kind of cool stuff. It was the phase 1 fuel tank with the water and the air, excuse me, was very difficult to do.
And
Get the part right.
none of those survived, as I recall.
Nope.
I know they're all scrapped.
There might be one at the GE factory in Erie, but good luck getting in there these days.
Yeah.
I think that was the original the U18, whatever they were calling it at the time.
It
It's
was,
actually kind of I think that actually lasted until the 90s, and I believe they did cut it up, as I recall.
No, couldn't be.
I'll drop a hint here. If the demos sell well, if everybody buys a demo, we'll actually do the low nose demo that GE came out, which is basically the phase 2 long hood, the single window cab with the short nose, but it had the phase 1 walkways and the rounded edges on the pilot.
Yeah,
The
So-
only one-
that's a neat one off.
There's only one made, but if we do really well on this, guess what? We'll do it.
Did
And it
that
went
one,
to the Union Pacific.
Yeah, it went to the Union Pacific, so there you go. That's a standard. That is not the Santa Fe. The Santa Fe had a different exhaust stack. So we set the model up so we can do just about any exhaust stack.
We
That's
have three versions in this run.
yes.
Yep.
The exhaust stack, we have the Santa Fe one. We have the one that doesn't have a tub around it, which is the earlier one. The Santa Fe has the one without the tub around it. And
There it
yep,
is.
there you go. And that's the Union Pacific High Hood, which didn't have a tub around it. And then the Santa Fe one has the square, the big square one. There it is. There's the Santa Fe one there.
And notice the longer, box on the walkway.
And you notice the longer air cleaner there.
Yeah, all those. So we have basically three different frames for each version.
No, actually, we have
Or is it more than that?
yeah, we have, let's see, New Haven, Penn Central are the same.
Mhm.
Area Lackawanna, Great Northern are the same. The High Hoods are all the same. Santa Fe is completely different. In fact, we show that on the web page that the battery boxes are all different. And we had to make different walkways for each because, of course, the Santa Fe had a unique set, which also had the long air cleaner in the back. And there was no way to make it as part of a mold insert or anything like that. So we had to actually tool the walkway that way.
And again, they had two without the air cooler or
Yep.
air cleaner.
The walkway was the most difficult part of this entire project
Yeah.
because they're very unique to whatever road picked them.
We learned that the hard way. Remember when we were working on the Santa Fe?
Yeah.
The battery boxes up front. That was it was totally different than all the other ones.
Yeah. What we learned the hard way is that the early phase 2 units, the battery box arrangement on the engineer side is a different length than the phase 3s.
Mhm.
So it's a completely different length. So the phase 2s, the early phase 2s had a different, they were shorter. And there's the dynamic brakes and everything like that without them. And it was, like I said, it turned into a nightmare. So we basically tooling almost per road name, which walkway we're going to be doing. So yeah. So
there's those dynamics again. That's with the.
That's without. So
That's
there's the
without.
with and without.
Mhm.
The one without is the New Haven one, the New Haven Penn Central one. And yes, we'll be doing the Penn units, which go into Penn Central, which also made it to Conrail. So we'll be doing those in another run.
And New York Central at some point.
Yep, we'll be doing New York Central, which requires a new walkway again, because they were one of the few roads that had the long air cleaner on the fireman side as opposed to the engineer side.
Mhm, mhm.
And as always, if you don't see your favorite road name in the initial release, we will be doing it. It doesn't mean we're not going to. We just can't do them all at once. You wouldn't be able to afford all you want.
Exactly.
We're doing you a favor.
Yeah, we're doing it. And like I said, here's the early phase 2, the door arrangement. So you can see all the high doors. You got 3, 4, and 4. The rear 4 on the left-hand side on the phase 3s were shorter, and the latches were, and then you have the ones where all the latches on the top are lower, which is also the phase 3 units. So if we pop another one up, you can actually see that.
Covered crewmen weren't as tall as they thought.
Yeah, really. Nobody wanted to reach way up to grab a latch.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the last things that Paul found, if we go back one, if you look right there on the left-hand side, all of the U25s, which I completely missed, have 2 sight glasses on them. So the next to the last door, you'll see the long, thin one,
Mhm.
and then you see the round thing right there. Those were sight glasses that were on everything, and I completely missed that. Paul caught it at the last second, so we were able to put that in.
Did these have ATS shoes, or is that just for one of the other ones?
Some did.
That is for
Yes,
the that's the demonstrator that you're looking at right now, which
yes,
is actually a
of course.
phase 1.
Mhm.
They did have an ATS shoe because they went everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
They made their rounds, and we are doing both demonstrator paint schemes because they changed the numbers for some inexplicable reason. They went from the 700 series GE to 2500, and there was only 3 of them.
Mhm, mhm.
So there's 3 demonstrators, and they changed the numbers on them. Who
Well,
knows?
it probably went to 2,500 because that's the horsepower, isn't it?
I believe so,
Is it?
but
25.
again, but those all went to St. Louis, San Francisco. And Union Pacific, I think, grabbed 1.
Yeah.
So
Or at least it's a
Yeah,
U25. That's why they called it 2,500.
nothing sticks to you. So anyway, yeah, this was quite the challenging project. There's a lot of things that are going on. Like I said, we did a Penn unit, but we held that off for the second run because we had enough. There's the train control box for New Haven Penn Central. Yes, they will be on the Penn Central
That looks
because
good.
Penn Central kept them. The Penn had their own train control box, so which is different than this train control box. Of course. And there's the door is, so if you look right there, you can see the battery boxes. Those unique ones for the New Haven Penn Central. I don't think anybody else had those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you can see there's a different arrangement. There's the phase ones. At least the phase ones are all the same because most of them went to Union Pacific. So
Yeah.
And there were two different groups.
Lucky they didn't change that at some point. So.
What'd you say, Craig?
There were two different groups of demo units.
Yes.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Oh yes, there were, but there at least the phase ones were pretty much all the same. So there's the battery arrangement that looks like the Santa Fe one that has 3 doors in the middle as opposed to 2 doors, and it's also shorter than the it's visibly shorter than the later phase units like the New Haven and stuff like that.
These boxes had like a 6-bolt wide pattern.
Yeah, those have 5. And if you notice that on the left-hand side, they terminate differently. You can see where the door is. So if we go to a later phase, like a phase 3, there's actually a notch in the 3rd door that they had to put in because the walkway, because the step actually interfered with the door. So GE put a notch in it, which we did do. That's, like I said, that's Santa Fe. That's an earlier unit.
There's the ELGN.
There we go, right there. Look at that. So if you look on the left-hand side, there you see the notch in the door. That's a phase 3 unit because they had to cut there's the phase 2 because it has the shorter battery box. So they didn't need to cut the door. But in the later ones, they had to cut a notch in the door to accommodate so you can actually open the thing.
Then go back, Jordan.
There you go. See it? That's another thing we found that was like, you got to be kidding me. So,
we did look at that first too. So
down the rabbit hole you go when you start playing with these things.
Yeah, that's where our design meetings come in handy. Where we
yes, because it was like Jordan. I think Jordan was the one that caught the Santa Fe ones were actually the battery boxes were actually shorter. So if you look at these, it's 6 bolts on there, and Jordan's like, "How come there's 5 bolts in the other one?" There you go, because they were actually shorter.
Naturally.
So we're modeling it.
Yep.
You know,
and like I said before, that we're doing the earlier the pinstripe scheme.
Yes.
And we'll do the yellow bonnet at a later date, probably in a future run. I don't know if that's going to be the 2nd or 3rd run.
I don't know yet.
So many different runs to do. We're not going to really get into the next runs yet. We'll focus on the road numbers we're doing now and the names. And then
we did have a big debate on whether we should do the pinstripes or the blue bonnets or whatever, the yellow bonnets. Yellow door bonnets. We did have a big debate, and we decided to go with the earlier ones because that's how they were delivered. Mm-hmm. And for the Erie Lackawanna people,
let's point out with the early numbers, they did get renumbered later to the later numbers, and we'll do those at some point also. Right,
they're easy enough to do. And for the Erie Lackawanna people who said, "How come you didn't do the earlier paint scheme?" Well, we wanted one that was more popular than the earlier one. Now that's open for debate too, but we decided that we'll go with the yellow scheme. What's it called? Gray, maroon, yellow scheme, the GMY scheme. We'll go with that scheme first.
Yeah.
And because we can always do the other ones, it's just a different paint job, so that's easier to do.
The road name is in maroon on the gray instead of in yellow on the maroon.
Right.
And
so we did that one.
Typeface too. It's Roman.
Yep. It's a different font and everything else. Santa Fe, same thing. We did the pinstripe scheme. We can always do the yellow bonnets and things like that. Not a problem. It depends on how many you buy. I always tell people that. I say, well, are you going to do X road name? Or are you going to do this scheme? And I always tell people, it all depends on how many sell. If we sell a bunch of them, yeah, absolutely, we'll do them. If we don't sell any of them, well, guess what? It's going to take a little longer to get.
And that's kind of the story with the H1644. We're gonna get to that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and Jordan's sad dog.
Yes, my sad dog video.
And me.
Okay.
Hey, Jordan, can you quit sharing for a second? I've got a question
Sure.
for John.
Go ahead.
Oops, wrong button. I want to know, are we doing this truck on the U-boat, on the Union Pacific U25?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
It won't be powered, but we'll do it. Just for you.
Yeah, it'll just
That
roll
one
right
is
along.
great.
We don't need to put a motor or a decoder in it or anything. It just sits there dead in the yard. So you'll have your display piece.
We're actually having one person ask why we do have the purple windows on the engines. That's not how they're going to come. That's just a kind of a for the factory to know what is going to.
What it designates to the factory is that they're what we call clear GPPS parts, and
Yeah.
GPPS is clear plastic. So that tells the factory that this piece needs to be made out of a certain material that is clear, or we can actually make it colored. You know, we would tell them what color we want separately, but that's what that denotes. So we usually when we're doing artwork for something like this, we'll change the windows to like light blue or something like that. To be honest, I ran out of time and I forgot. So they were in what we call Rhodamine Red. It's a Pantone match.
The reason we use that color, and a lot of other companies do it as well, is Rhodamine Red has never been used on any paint scheme. So it's a color that won't be confused with anything else.
Yep. So that's why they're that color. They're that color for the factory.
Yeah.
One of those little known things. Excuse me? Yeah, we enjoy confusing people. Why not?
A bit mean.
There's a nice shot of you can actually see right through the dynamic brakes there. The dynamic brakes are actually open. In fact, the grids aren't behind it anymore. They're gone.
That's also a nice comparison of the different types of steps and pilots on the earlier and the later units.
Yeah. But what's interesting is the unit on the left doesn't have the radiator cores behind it. It's wide open. So it's probably a dead unit. Because they have a whole radiator, because we have a photograph of the actual dynamic brake, and what you see those vertical lines there, but behind it you see the radiator cores, which we replicated.
How long did Frisco keep these anyways? This picture was taken in '72. Did they last much longer? I'm not sure. Craig, you might know that, or Paul.
I'm waiting for a text from our Frisco guy. Oh, Greg, how long did they keep these?
There you go.
Because I've forgotten. They lasted pretty long.
20 years, maybe.
Yeah, easily. I don't remember if they lasted into the BN merger. I don't believe they did, but
BN probably would have canned
here we
them by
go.
then.
They lasted until 1977.
There you go.
So
So they lasted into the BN merger.
no, almost. The BN merger was 80.
Was it?
I believe so.
Just a good guy.
So they missed it by that much.
And are we, the other question, are we doing this paint scheme, the yellow and black? And this, when we had the discussion with the St. Louis and San Francisco, I originally was going to do the yellow and black. However, Greg Summers, once again, highly recommended that we do the red and white, the orange and mandarin orange and white scheme. So we got to be careful about that. So we have a paint match for that now, courtesy of Greg. So we're going to do those first. If we sell a bunch of SLSF units, guess what? These schemes will come too.
Yep, for sure.
And real quick, while this photo's up, a little bit of a fun fact. These high-nose Frisco U25Bs ran to Los Angeles on a Memphis or some other place in the South train that went all the way to LA, and they just run the Frisco power all the way through. And there are photos of them on Cajon Pass in solid sets in black and yellow back in the early 60s. And so if you're modeling Cajon Pass in the early 60s, you need these.
Let's assume they had dynamic brakes as well.
Yes.
They had to. Birmingham was the other city. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, they
We know at least Greg's watching.
these came out in '62, if I'm not mistaken. They started rolling these out. The phase ones were first, of course, and everybody got theirs by like '65.
They started in 60. Yeah.
Well, no, the demo unit started in '60.
Yeah.
The actual production to roads came in like 62, 61, 62.
Wow.
According to Greg's tome.
59.
59 for the demos. Yeah, the initial one, if we want to, what do you want to call it? Now, are we doing the chevron stripes on the Frisco unit? Yes. It doesn't show on the artwork because we have to make a separate piece of artwork for that. What I did was the artwork for the basic Frisco scheme. So we'll be doing a separate piece of artwork for the one with the chevrons.
And that is number specific. Some had it,
Yes.
some didn't.
And I think Greg said it's 804. And then it depends on what kind of chevrons. He's probably going to ping you any second.
And they also faded. It was Scotch-Lite, I believe, and early Scotch-Lite had a habit of fading pretty badly.
And there's a Penn Central unit that's an ex-New Haven unit.
Mhm.
Because you can tell it was 2660 to 2669 were the ex-New Havens
That one
in
has
the
a
phase
black
2,
handrail.
phase 3.
So that one has a black handrail. I've seen one that has a yellow handrail also.
Yes. This one, the paint didn't flake off yet.
Yeah.
So what I did is I was like, I wasn't sure 100%. So when I did the artwork, I forgot to paint the stanchions and stuff black. So what you see in the artwork right now is going to change for the people who are freaking out because of Penn Central. And because the ex-New Haven units, they quickly lost the black handrails and they turned yellow because they were yellow underneath.
Mhm.
But the stanchions were black. So the stanchions pretty much stayed black.
And this just in for the Frisco guys, 803 is the one that'll have the chevron stripes.
Yep. There
Just
you go.
going back to the Friscos for a sec, what era were the nose stripes approximately?
I don't know.
70s. I forget.
We'll get back to you on that one. So,
Yeah, we'll get back to you right on that one.
In
It's
the 70s.
early 70s.
I don't remember when they went to that scheme. Don't make me go get a book when Greg is texting us all the time.
You can hear him pinging right there.
I know.
So again, Penn Central, all kinds of stuff.
Ooh, that's neat.
That's 2652. That's an ex-Pennsy unit.
mhm.
That must be in the Conrail days because that EL unit is renumbered.
It's got the CR.
It's not renumbered, it's got a CR on it.
April
So that's
7th.
an earlier phase. The Pennsy units were earlier phases. They were phase 2s.
Yeah.
And they had their own train control box. This is the same one again. So notice on this one, of course, the Pennsy had multiple orders. So this is actually a phase 3. This is a phase 3 because look at the on the top of the long hood there, all the latches are lower.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Isn't this the New York
That
Central?
denotes a phase 3.
Is this New York Central, John?
It is an ex-New York Central course. Yes, it is because it's 2500.
And
it
this,
has
this
blocks.
does show the yellow railing. So you were saying the
No, actually, Paul, this is not a New York Central unit because the latches are low. It's a Pennsy unit.
Okay.
Okay.
Where's the train
the-
control box?
This is an ex. It's some of the Pennsy units did not have them
Oh,
Why
okay.
is there white paint on the sill?
because I don't know because the New York Central units were earlier. They were the early phase 2s. They had all the high latches. I'd have to go look it up. There's so many. Like I said, when it comes down to the Pennsy to Penn Central, I think I have like 15 columns of what road numbers became what because of course the Pennsy being the Pennsy renumbered all those from 2500 to 2600s
There's
because they're the Pennsy. They can do things like that. The Great Northern ones were pretty much stock. These were the bread and butter phase 3s. They're the same as the Erie Lackawannas. So they were pretty easy to do.
one small
And
thing.
a few got painted
Got the,
sky blue.
What's that? Sorry.
I said a few of them did end up in big sky blue also.
Yeah.
We'll
couple
do
of them
those
did.
at some point.
So what are you gonna say, Jordan?
I was just say these ones. Is this is it like a conspicuity striping on them? Is that
That was later.
okay? All right. They weren't delivered like that though.
No, they were not delivered that way. They did not have the little spots, the circles. I believe they're circles. They're Scotch Light
Okay.
because I have a bunch of photos of them before that.
All right.
But what did change was they went back and forth between white and black number boards.
Okay.
Now there's the original GE 2501
Mhm.
with the phase 1, the phase 2 car body and the phase 1 walkway.
Yep, the only one.
The only one that came out that way.
So we're getting back into the. Actually, this is a former.
And the Frisco Mandarin orange and white, the first unit was painted in 65.
Ah,
So this photo is actually 78. So would this be
Probably deadline.
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
Or
We have a lot of deadline photos.
near service. They got traded in for U30Bs.
Mhm. There's the other demo.
There's the other demo scheme, 750, which is the one we did. We did 753. I mean, it was pretty easy to do.
Mhm.
It's the same colors and everything.
Oy.
There's the pre U25.
Wow,
I
look
feel,
at
what
that.
was it, a UD18, Craig?
No handrails on the front. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the UD18 or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is the one that actually kind of lingered in Erie and well into the 90s before they kind of disposed of it, as I recall.
Yeah.
And that looks like none of the units.
This is actually a phase. This is a phase 4.
That's a phase
or
3.
5?
That's a
It's
phase
got the-
4.
Yeah, it's got the slope nose and the split window.
And the well, you can tell the instant thing you can talk about is the handrails.
Yeah.
Notice how the stanchions go on the side. Instead of terminating on the deck, they terminate on the side of the locomotive.
Mhm, mhm.
That's the trademark of a phase 4 and the two windows.
Is there going to be a test on this at the end?
Yes, there will be a quiz.
You will see this material again.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, those are all Erie Lackawanna phase 4s. Yes, we'll do an Erie Lackawanna phase 4 because Erie Lackawanna is a lot of fun. That's a phase 3. So
Alright. Well, that's pretty much the U25s. We've gone on about that for almost an hour now, so I guess we should probably jump into the relaunch of the H1644.
do we have any questions or anything that I can possibly
Well,
maybe
let's-
answer or Greg can answer?
Let me see what we can get here. Here's a U25 question about the UP units. Why didn't we select one of the UP XGE demos?
We did. 625 to 629. I forget which one is one of the demos.
Oh, okay. Someone was asking about that.
Yeah, because that's the typical truck. So
Ah,
630 and higher have the trade-in trucks.
okay, sounds good.
Yep.
I do have some H16 questions coming up too, so why don't
Okay,
I?
no problem. I can answer those too.
you
Why
want-
didn't we do?
X.
Actually, we'll get into that right away. A lot of people are asking why we didn't do a whole bunch of different road numbers, or not road numbers, road names.
Okay,
There's
go for it.
oh, you
Because
want-
I'll be able to answer 95% of them.
Yeah, well, I'll let you finish that off while I get this set up.
I'll tell you what, set it up and I'll be back in 2 seconds because I'm gonna need something.
Uh-oh.
Getting props.
Well, let me pull the website up in the meantime, and we'll go over the relaunch of the H16. So we did announce this a little over, what, about a year and a half ago. And we did put a kind of a funny, silly YouTube video out this afternoon about this. But the orders have been not really what we expected. They've been quite a bit low than we wanted. So I just
So since I was the designer on this one,
yeah,
let's consult the book.
yes.
Requirement.
The
We can kind of see that. It's
Yeah.
postage stamp on there, but
Yeah, I know. So anyway, fire away with your questions.
well, I was going to talk just about the relaunch first, then I'll go into.
Yes, go right ahead.
So we're relaunching the H1644 project. These are the phase 3 car bodies. Like I was saying before, we got a lot of questions like, why aren't you doing New York Central? Why aren't you doing Santa Fe? A lot of the roads that bought H16s, they bought the earlier phase 1 and 2 car bodies. They're totally different. This is the phase 3 car body, and we're doing the bulk of the major roads. I think we're just not doing some of the Mexican roads in this release.
That's all we're not doing is the Mexican roads.
But we've got, this is from the original release, we've got B&O, CN and Green. Additional to this run for the relaunch, we've got CN Noodle.
And something that Josh brought up today is that we have 2213 in noodle and green, so we're gonna fix that.
Okay, sounds good.
Mhm.
CP in block letter. This is the 8700 series, which came short hood forward. Someone was asking about the long hood forward units. which-
Yes, the long hood forwards are the 85s and I believe the 86s,
Mhm.
which are a different body. They got different details and everything on them.
Yeah, and they were converted for short hood forward at some point, but
Yeah.
not.
So we picked 8700 We picked 8700 because they were the most numerous.
Of course, we've got the Action Red multi-mark units. A lot of people have been asking about those.
Yep.
Especially if you're a modeler out in Western Canada, Alberta and Southern BC. These were based in that area, so a good Western Canadian model for you guys. And some of these actually ended up in Southern Ontario for a little while in the late 60s, early 70s. I think it would have London, Ontario. A couple of them were based for a while. So
Actually, we're gonna we got 8717 there. We're gonna change that to 8716 because according to Josh, it ran the rail grinder around Ontario.
oh, nice, fantastic.
So with 8715, so 8715 16 pushed around the rail grinders. So
Of course, we've got Milwaukee, which was part of the original announcement. New Haven McGuinness. And we've got the later New Haven simplified scheme. Was it just the one?
it was just one lowly unit.
Yep, yep.
Now a little something on here. Only the New Haven and Canadian Pacific, the 85 teen ones, I think it's 85 15 to 18, were the only ones equipped with steam generators. Those are the only units.
They didn't last long on the New Haven and passenger service, but they did start that way.
Right. So, but we modeled it.
Yeah, if you're modeling 1956, you can throw those H-16s on the New Haven on just about any passenger train on the shoreline. You in.
Yep.
Nice. Got N&W, of course.
Which are the ex-Virginian units,
Yep, which we're also doing. We've got the Penn Central units.
which are the surviving New Haven units.
And there's the Virginians. That's
Yep.
a very bright yellow and black scheme.
Yep.
So
And again, Virginia had phase 2 and phase 3s and stuff like that. So we're careful which ones we picked.
exactly. Scroll back up to the renders here, and we have done unique bodies and detailing for each unit. So there's
You got behind the cab, you've got the two air filters, 3 air filters. If you notice, the Baltimore and Ohio has the 3 air filters right back there versus the Canadian National, which has 2. And then the fans are all in different arrangements. So some had 2 on one side, some had one on one side, 2 on one side. CP had only 2 fans. So we modeled all those. So various fans of fan configurations. These are really, really oddball units.
They are.
I mean, they were weird.
It was back at the time when you had, like, Fairbanks Morse was building locomotives that were pretty much tailored to every railroad, kind of almost like the steam days.
Didn't the New Haven guys, Paul, hate these units because of the climbing up the steps?
Yeah, going between units at speed was a bit of a challenge between a Jeep or an RS-11 or RS-3 getting up into one of these things. It was kind of taking your life in your hands. So they didn't exactly like that. Plus the vertical ladder type steps versus a more Pullman type step on all the other units. Yeah, these were not necessarily very popular with the crews, but you know, they ran for years on the New Haven. They ran right through into Penn Central. So.
Yep.
I've got one question about Milwaukee. One of the units we're doing, 429, was wrecked.
Yes.
Are we changing that number?
No, we're going to leave it. And the reason why we're going to leave it, and I knew it got wrecked at some point.
Sometime in the mid 60s.
Yeah, it was sometime in the mid 60s. So they lasted about 10 years in 429. So we decided not to change it because it would have involved changing any of the pre-orders that came out and all that stuff. So by the time we found out that, it was way too late.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But again, it still lasted 10 years on the railroad. So before it got shot to pieces or whatever went off the road. Some of the New Haven units didn't survive either. You know, a couple of them did.
For CP, we're doing the 8709 in both schemes. Is that?
But we're going to fix that.
Yeah. Okay. We'll change that number.
Because I picked those numbers at the last minute based on photographs I had.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably the one we'll change to 8716. Now that we have both.
Which paint scheme are you going to change it on?
CP rail.
The later one.
Yeah, the later one, because that'll make the with the 8715, it'll make the rail grinder pair.
Oh, okay.
Which Josh pointed out at like 4:45 p.m. today.
we'll probably get that updated pretty quickly, probably in the next.
We'll get it updated very shortly. Because they
That
just
was about 10 minutes ago.
he's out grocery shopping. He's gonna watch the Montreal game tonight. So there's no talking to him.
Question about the CN units. Where approximately in the system did they operate? As I recall, they were all kind of Ontario and East, Ontario, Quebec.
They were Eastern locomotives.
Yeah. They never ventured west of.
Whereas the CP ones were a lot of them were west.
Yeah, most of them were based out of Calgary and down on the southern main line there.
Yep.
Weren't the CN ones on the CV at some point too?
They probably were. They probably showed up on the CB.
Central Vermont, for those who don't know.
Yes. Yeah, they probably did. I mean, in those days, everything from the CN ran down there. So, including steam. Down in this area, believe it or not.
Now, of course, for a deadline, we are relaunching. We're going to give this probably, I think we're setting an order deadline of September 15th. And then we're going to reevaluate how the orders have done. And if we're happy with how that's gone, we will we'll go into tooling probably in the fall, early in the fall this year. So.
Now they're just to let people know where we got how do we find an H1644? Because finding drawings for those things is next to impossible. There's actually one surviving unit. It's a CP unit. It's out in not Calgary, it's Edmonton, I believe. It's way out there in a toxic waste site. So Rapido being Rapido, we sent some people out there to measure it under full permission, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Yep. So, but we actually got the measurements of the unit, doors and everything like that. So it was an interesting project.
That's actually an interesting engine because it was in service for about 20 years and it's been in storage for 45. So
yeah. And for something that's been storage that long, it's pretty well intact.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about out west there. You don't have I guess the same corrosion issues you have out here, especially not that you're driving on roads, but you have the salt and stuff like that. So yeah, held up pretty well. So. All right, let's see if we got any other questions here. Not much else right at the moment, but let me take a look and see what we got. Do you want to talk anything else about or anything more about the H16s for a moment there? I can pull some more questions up.
Again, I think they're an interesting locomotive. They're a more obscure, locomotive. Again, the only thing we didn't do was the Mexican roads for this particular unit, and which were pretty much all hand-me-downs from everybody else. A lot of them were. Some of them were delivered brand new. But
I'd still like to see us do them.
Again, it comes down to orders.
John,
I would love to do them.
John, do you want to go
to the website, request them? Let's see how many people request them. Do it.
What are you saying, Paul?
John, do you want to go over the features on this? Because I don't think we have. Lights.
Again, Fairbanks North being Fairbanks North. They have operating, the class lights operate, the headlights operate, obviously. The control stand is illuminated. They didn't have inspection lights under the fireman's side or the engineer's side for some inexplicable reason. But typical stuff, see-through fans. Like I said, the proper fan arrangements depending on the road. And of course, every road had their own little arrangement. And the detail parts that came for each road. Some had cab shades, some didn't, as you can see. Some had 2 air filters, some had 3 air filters. So we actually made that. Like I said, we put a lot of work into this.
Different exhaust stacks, different.
Oh yeah, different exhaust stacks, short, tall, of course, air horns and things like that. And like I said, they were just really weird units, but they're kind of cool.
Doing 2 different trucks on them.
No, we have there's only one. They did the same trucks as the sea liners.
Oh, okay.
Was there a difference between the Canadian units and the American units on the trucks?
Yeah, the Canadian ones have DOFSCO and CanCore on them, whereas the American ones do not. So that's the only real difference. The brake arrangement, everything was pretty much the same. The other difference, the major difference is there's 3 styles of fuel tank, short, medium, and long.
Mhm.
And of course, the long ones, there's two long ones. There's the long ones that are on the long ones, and then there's the long ones that have the water saddles, the water tanks built into them. So like if you look right at the New Haven one, that had a combination fuel and water tank, which were kind of the fuel tanks were in the center and the water tanks were on the skirt, out on the outside of the units, because you can see the clean out plugs and stuff on them. So it's stuff like that. We actually modeled it. And of course, like the B&O and the CN and stuff like that had short fuel tanks. And of course, the Canadian Pacific and Norfolk and Western had the medium-sized fuel tanks. So we did do the correct fuel tanks for them.
Now, what are we doing in terms of a sound file? Have we sorted that out yet?
We have not sorted that out 100%. I forget what we have. ESU has something that's fairly close to it, and we'll probably we were working with ESU on that, and they said they had something that was pretty damn close.
And speaking of sound, we forgot to mention sound on the U25s. Are we using ESU on those?
Yes,
Okay,
those are ESUs.
because I saw questions earlier about that.
Yep, we're doing.
So, okay,
Yeah.
good.
You know, and also, yes, we did consider on the U25s as well as the H1644s is how do you get the shell off? And we learned our lessons on that and simplified it. So you just take the couplers out, and it just lifts out. And what we're doing is like on the U25 is we're putting spring loaded on the so all the lights and stuff are on a spring loaded pad. So it makes electrical contact with a spring. So you don't have so when you take the hood off, there's not like 5,000 wires going to a wire harness, which goes to the decoder, which means you can only lift the hood off like 6 inches. So we actually put a spring mechanism in there that makes contact with all the lights and stuff like that. That allows us to remove it completely.
So there's no challenge, in other words.
Yes, there's no challenge like the RS11s, or worse, the RDCs.
It's like 16 screws or something just to get.
Oh my God, it was murder. Because one of the things is they would get the RDCs would get shock damage from the post office or whoever. And what would happen is the worm gear cover would pop loose, which would cause the truck to spin freely. So in order to get at that, you'd have to take like 1 million screws out of it. You'd have to literally take the entire unit apart to get at that to go click. So to do a 2-second repair.
Yeah.
But that was the nature of the beast.
Well,
Another question asking if the CP units would have run alongside steam. Most likely they would have, because CP kept their steam going until 1960.
Yeah.
And when were these delivered? 50, was it 56, 55? Somewhere
55.
55, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I'm not sure if there's any photos of that out there, but it's quite possible.
Let's have a look. I don't have any photos of it running with steam.
Consult the book.
Consult the Book of Armaments.
I knew you were.
So yeah, but we represented all the phase 3 units, except for, like I said, except for Mexican roads.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Do you think we'll do the Mexican roads? I know there's a lot of people asking for Mexican units.
Oh, they do.
We haven't really tested the Mexican market yet. There's a lot we could actually do with other stuff too, like the PAs.
Yes,
A good one to test it with.
Yeah.
I made the pitch.
Yep. There's actually a few interesting schemes for the Mexican ones. There's actually 3 or 4 different variations.
Yes, there are, and there's like 2 in this scheme, 4 in this scheme, 1 in this scheme. Of course, they just slap some paint on it, and depending on which one. So it's a little bit of a minefield.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if these sell well enough, will we consider doing the earlier phases?
Well, Atlas does the phase 2s now.
Yeah, they pretty well covered all of those.
Yeah. So
I think it'd be a long shot considering how kind of it's.
But I'll be honest, this was kind of a test bed for more obscure locomotives than say a G38 or a U25 or something like that. So that's why this has been a bit of a challenge. It's a more esoteric locomotive. There wasn't a lot of roads. There wasn't like 50 roads that had it.
Mm-hmm.
So if these make it to production, which I'm hoping they will, because they should, that opens up the market for other things like, you know, other Fairbanks Morse units or Lima Hamilton or something like that.
Or an Ingalls 4S.
Yeah. Or the dreaded C415.
Oh,
You thought the U25s were a lot of variants?
Yeah. For 10 locomotives.
15.
One more question about the CPs. Did a lot of them get script? And did they? I think they did last. Some of them lasted in script for a while, or was that the 8500s?
That's the 85s.
Yeah.
They 87s were mostly, for the most part, block.
Yeah, and then they went right into multi-mark.
They went right in the multi-mark and
68.
was 68. Yeah, if you buy here's a pitch. If we sell a lot of CP stuffs, you know, the 85s are a different creature.
Mhm.
You know, the 85s were the passenger ones, there's only 4 of them, but the 86s, there were quite a few. And those were in script. So, you know, a second run we'd probably do the 86s with the particular stylings of them, and they ran long hood forward for quite a while.
Mhm.
You know, and of course the 85s were passenger equipped, so they had steam generators. So, you know,
about unnumbered units. What would be the possibility for doing unnumbered? I think we've talked about this before.
yeah, we've had this conversation.
Unnumbers are a lot like
Undeck.
Undex, very low demand. And in theory, we could do a custom run of them, but I believe the minimum order is 6 units.
Yeah.
Pack. Because
Yep.
the factory doesn't like to do 1s and 2s, and that's
No.
really what happened with undecorated. With a lot of our projects, we found out that we were getting orders for like 2 of this, 1 of that, and when you have 10 different bodies, which undeck do you do?
Yeah, the answer is yes. So, but if you know, use the power of social media, and if you want undeck units, you can always order a minimum amount of order and get together with your friends and split them up.
Yep.
So, you know, that's the only way to do it. They just don't sell.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't believe that, but they don't sell.
No, and they're much more labor intensive for the factory to do. The factory hates doing undecks because they have to get, and this is with the SW 1200s, they have to get all the parts. So with the SW 1200 US roads, we've got 3 different versions. So they're 3 different trucks, or the Grand Trunk version. And I mean, with the standard one, you get all of the parts from every version in the same box, just a difference of which truck you get, or if you've got the Grand Trunk body. So some of them you get multiple different railings and handrails and everything, headlights.
That's the perils of doing, you know, road specific detail.
Yeah.
You know, because we can't just give you a CP one, because the factory has to actually, you know, make that.
Yeah.
So, you know, what parts do they leave on, which parts they throw in the poly bag. That's a tough call.
The factory is in a mindset to assemble everything, and it really bogs them down to have to put all these parts and pieces in. And from experience, they leave a lot out. When I worked at another company, they were always leaving parts out on decks because they just overlooked it. And it was a lot of trouble to make undecorated models, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Yeah.
not like the
Believe it
old,
or not.
What's that, Paul?
it's not like the old days where all you do is just not paint it.
Yeah, and it was one body with
Yeah.
no add-on detail. So
And maybe
See,
some
back
part
then.
entirely.
Like I said, again, the ready to run market, the ready to run market is this big, and the modeling is unfortunately this big.
Yeah.
But as one of us said, there's nothing at all preventing you from taking 99% alcohol or 91% alcohol and buying a locomotive and dipping it in and leaving it in there for a while and scrubbing everything off. Now you have an undeck.
somebody's making a lot of scratching noises.
I think that might be your microphone, John.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is.
Here we go.
Probably getting some feedback.
That's all right.
Yeah, so there's nothing preventing you from doing that. So you buy your favorite locomotive and you give it the dip.
And one more thing, John, we are going to fix the New Haven handrail color on the 1609, right?
I already fixed it.
Hey, this is
Again, we came up with those extra paint schemes like a few days ago, and I had to whip them up. So yeah, I changed them to black already.
Just letting people know.
Yes, and I did the Penn Central one too, and changed the stanchions to black, and I left the top of the handrails yellow for now
Horrors.
because I have a million photographs that show them yellow on the top.
Yep.
Believe it or not, you know.
No, I've got some too.
Yeah, you gave them to me.
Oh, that's right.
How about that?
Okay.
So yeah,
And I got it from Greg Summers.
yes, yeah. How dare he? So yeah, but again, the U25 was a blast to do. It was a fun project, and it's long overdue.
Fun.
Yeah, and we'll see how this project goes. That opens the door for a lot of other. Like we've done the B36 now. We've got the U25 announced. That leaves a lot of room for a lot of GEs. So
Wait, there are more GEs? That's hard to believe. Are you
I won't
sure?
tell. I know one specifically, and other things.
yeah.
You know, I'm starting on a brand new project tomorrow.
Oh, what is it?
It's the and road specific too.
Yeah, that one's gonna be popular.
Yes, it's the Framagim. It's Frigga Raka Plucka
Well,
specific.
So
It ran on the obscure. It ran on the obscure and southern.
yeah, whatever it is, we'll find out if our wallets are going to be safe or not.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah.
Which is our main goal, is to not make your wallet safe.
Mhm.
Oh, and for those of you who are unhappy that we did a U25B because your road didn't have them, just hang in there.
Yeah.
Just patience.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be. I've got many photos in the library, and we'll just be picking and choosing the next one.
I
Well,
think
we have
we
a
came up
lot
with
of
a number.
projects in works that we have not yet discussed, so.
I think in terms of class 1 paint schemes, I think we came up with a number of like 35 or 36 different varieties, just
Mhm.
amongst all the class 1s. So, I mean, you can get 5 or 6 different releases without duplicating anything.
Yeah, and one of the big ones I heard already is, how come you're not doing SP in the first run? I said, well, because we're doing Santa Fe and Union Pacific in the first run.
Is there a market for SP?
Yeah, there might be a one or two. Maybe Harry Wong will buy one.
Yeah. Well, when we do those, that's another my wallet not being safe kind of thing. I'll need many of those.
Just like I mentioned in one post, we had to pry SP out of Jordan's cold dead fingers because he was really pushing hard for that, and I said no. So I had to shake him back with a stick.
Yeah.
I'm a proponent of keeping some of the big road names back for the second, third, fourth runs. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And some of those are like I said, Rock Island.
Oh,
Yeah. Which
You know how
which turns into my favorite, Main Central.
With the funky cab roofs.
Two
Cab
variants.
Yep. Again, SP, there's a bunch of others.
And for those of you who, we did a U25, we're doing the Fairbanks Morse, my wallet is safe. Give it time. Your wallet won't be safe.
No, it won't be safe at all. Especially with the rest of the minions are working on right now. And what I'm working on starting tomorrow.
I'm not sure if you guys have any information on this. This is more of a build project, but did we get an update on the northeastern caboose? Has that gone into tooling yet?
I believe it has.
I think it has. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not sure when we're going to see the first samples on that, but
We're going to see the first samples on the Santa Fe Reefer,
mhm.
the RF56, in next month. So-
Speaking of tooling, we've had a couple of slight delays in some of our order deadlines. We'd originally announced I think it was the D10 and the RS11.
Mhm.
Those are, I believe, one if not both of them are being pushed to August because there's some tooling issues we need to sort out.
Yeah, we found some issues in the test in the tooling tests, so we had to send them back for rework.
Yeah, so before we close that order book, we're gonna fix some stuff, update that tooling again, change a few other things, and get that going. We want to get some videos out. We were just too pressed for time, so we're gonna work on that through July, and we're aiming for mid-August, probably August 16th, I believe is the.
We were overwhelmed by Jordan's sad dog.
She did a number on everybody, I think, so.
Again, you made Mohan cry when you screened that earlier.
Yes, we screened that on our meeting this afternoon, and he looked very. He was
Looked very sad.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
But another thing to say, those who are wondering, how come we haven't done a passenger car in a little while? Well, they're coming. We have some coming. Where are the county cars? The county cars are in the queue for
Hooray.
production.
Is that all 8,000 variations?
Yes, all 8 variations. There are 8 variations of those cars.
I had to put 2 zeros on the back of that, so.
Oh my God.
there are more coming after that.
Yes.
Just
We're
can't
still
discuss.
getting orders.
I know. Like I said, they're in the queue. They're in line to be worked on. They had to get in line with everything else.
Should we real quickly discuss PC boards?
Oh, yes, just very quickly, I'm not sure if did we talk about that in the newsletter today? I can't remember.
I think we did, but it doesn't hurt to
Yeah.
explain it again for those who didn't
yeah.
read the newsletter.
Yeah, the worldwide seeming shortage of circuit boards has somewhat affected production of a few models. We're going to see some slight delays, probably not huge, but a couple of projects might be maybe a month or 2 later than what we originally anticipated. I think the things that aren't affected, the HO scale later phase Amtrak F40s and the US run of F40s are coming along. They should be leaving the factory, I think, in July, if I'm not mistaken. We should see those in August, and a few other projects like we've got the Comets, the Horizons in both HO and N scale pretty far along, and the HO tank car, the GP20 tank. But some of our other diesels we might have to, and electrics too. I think the EP5 might be pushed back a few weeks. We were aiming for like August, September, I believe.
And this shortage will affect more than just Rapido also.
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah, it'll affect the brand X.
I mean, it's affecting things outside the hobby industry as well. So
SGM.
Oh yeah, to say the least.
Yeah,
The chip
exactly.
shortage, because remember, your DCC decoders run on chips like anything else.
Mhm, mhm.
You know,
what about the salsa shortage? Is that
that only affects Western units. Unless you're from New York City.
Oh, speaking of locomotives on the way, I didn't mention this, the B36s, they are actually leaving in a few weeks. I think they should be, they're leaving the factory by the end of July, they should be on the water. So before then, probably about mid to late July. So expect those to land in probably mid to late August, they should be getting here. And the well cars are actually coming before that.
Oh.
They should be here in July, a few weeks away.
I have something for the EP5.
Sure.
Since somebody brought it up. The EP5 is in production as we speak.
Mhm, mhm.
It is, we finalized the sound files and everything like that. And so the sound file is being put together, the final sound file. Of course, all the Easter eggs are in there too. Thank you. And the units are actually in production. I think they're scheduled for August, September, I think, to leave the factory. So we should see them. We should see them by the end of summer, early fall.
and didn't I hear that the chip shortage will not affect those?
No, they will not. They've already, the chips already been allocated for those. So we'll actually see the EP5, which I designed 3 years ago.
But it'll be worth the wait.
Yeah.
But it was that dreaded, it was the pantograph, first designing the pantograph, and then the factories never built pantographs, so we had to go through that pain.
Mhm.
And it was just, it got pushed aside for other projects. But it was, now that we've done an electric, now I'm pushing Jason to do other electrics.
Yeah, there's a couple electrics we want to do.
Right, Paul? Like an EF3 or something like that?
Sure.
I know,
Yeah.
I'd like to see.
Which one would you like to see?
Well, I can't say what it is.
I'd like to see washboards.
Come on, you know he wants to do CN box cabs.
Yeah. They ran into the Detroit River. Leave them alone.
Couple quick other factory updates. Let me just share this for a sec. That is the N scale rebuilt F40s. I don't know if that's
Those
coming
came out
along.
sweet.
Though they're not done yet, of course. It's very early photos, and we've got Comet Seats.
Oh, somebody just asked about the Comet cars. Where are they?
Mhm.
And there's the seats painted, one seat red, one seat blue, which made the factory cry.
It's,
Oh, and
It's not the Seuss book, isn't it?
we've got a few seats. There's some piles of seats. So,
Yeah, there's some seats.
Red seat, blue seat. by Dr.
Josh was fighting back and forth on the factory. The factory wanted to paint him all one color, and they begged him not to let him paint him two color. So we ended up painting him two color, as you see.
Oh,
Yeah, they cried on that one.
it looks so beautiful though, John.
They do. They look pretty. I mean, that's how they were.
It's MBTA.
The MBTA had the multicolored seats.
Yes.
So yeah.
And this is the HO scale seats. Like I mentioned before, we should see both of these sometime mid to late summer. I don't know exactly when yet. They're pretty far along in production, and
Yeah.
the HO scale F40s. I don't believe they're affected. They're not affected by the chip shortage because I believe those are already made. They're almost done, so they should be getting ready to ship in July.
Those seats are my CAD design too. I actually CAD'd those seats, so they were nice and plush. We had to, Josh asked me to make them plush, so I made them plush. Don't ask.
Now the question is, were they actually comfortable to sit in?
They're actually quite comfortable. I rode on one not too long, about 6 months ago, because the MBTA still has them.
John, I rode these cars for 5 years. They're comfortable enough.
Yeah, and I rode one 6 months ago because they still run back and forth between Middleborough and Boston every day.
Nice.
So Comet cars still on the road, man.
Yep, they're holding their own. So.
Yeah, they do their good job in commuter service. Yes, and the Montreal ones, the AMT ones, which change paint stylings like every other month.
Let's see if I've got any other photos here, but that might be it for Comets.
I'm glad those are finally coming because the Horizons came out very well.
Yeah.
Horizons, it was fun designing the diner.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So
I'm trying to think what else is on the short list of arriving.
well, well cars are on the water right now. Oh, the HO scale GARX meat reefers.
Yep, those are in.
They're actually in. They've actually landed in the warehouse. The guys in the back are pretty much they're still working their way through the direct orders of buses. So that bus order was huge. Something like 10,000 buses or something like that. That's our third release. We have a lot of people actually asking how popular buses actually are and why we do them. I think in the last 3-4 years, we're on a third release now. We've sold something like 30 or 35,000 buses. That's huge.
Whatever you do, don't ask Jordan why we did Capris.
He did that because I like them.
There you go.
It does help that Jason needs them for his layout, but that's not why I got them approved. So.
By the way, someone has asked what the New Jersey Transit Comet car seats look like. They're brown.
Yeah, they're brown. We actually have photos of those. I don't know. You might have to dig through our old Facebook post. You might have to go back to last summer, but we did have some painted samples that show the brown seats.
They were either brown or blue and red.
Yeah. We had a couple of different versions. So.
Yes, buses.
Yep.
Buses are fun.
Buses are fun.
That's why Jason owns a 1/1 scale version.
Yes. I mean, actually, we were downtown Toronto last week. Last Tuesday, we went on a bit of a tour. We needed a day out of the office, so we left everybody else there, but we went out on a bit of a drive. So
How was the traffic?
Toronto traffic, it actually wasn't too bad. When you're driving a 40-foot bus, everyone kind of
Gets out of the way.
they try and avoid it.
The C parts.
Exactly. Yeah.
The C parts for your 40-foot bus.
Exactly.
Oh, good Lord.
So
But more cars coming, right? Right, Jordan?
There are more cars coming. I've actually got 2 new projects that we haven't announced that are just starting. We're just kicking off two new HO scale vehicle projects. Very early, very early. So don't expect to see anything for a little while, but the first run of our Caprices and Impalas have been hugely successful. We actually increased our order to the factory by 20% because we sold so many in the first run. We only launched it last month, so we're really happy about how that's turned out. They're going into production probably in 2 or 3 weeks. We'll start getting the factory to begin injecting shells and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, those are fun.
Yep.
Jordan, isn't the second batch of SW1200s?
Oh, yes. They, that's been quite the adventure. They left the factory. They left the factory in May. I think the last week of May, they left the factory. They sat in a warehouse thanks to the Suez Canal and various other things. They sat in a warehouse it was in Shenzhen for what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
Yeah, yes, they sat cooling their heels.
Yeah. So that's finally on the move. They are on the water now. We were expecting them to arrive like now, but instead it's looking like it's going to be about 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully they'll be landing at in BC and loaded on the train in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll be posting updates as that comes along. And that's all of the other paint schemes that weren't in the first batch. So all of the undecorateds. We've got like the Mopacs and a whole bunch of other like Penn Central.
Yeah.
Was Conrail in the first batch or second batch? It was the second batch, I think.
I think it was second batch.
Lots of them.
Yeah, CNW is in the second batch.
But
Yeah.
Dan is just starting to recover from the SW1200 trauma. Like I said, where we learned how to not why we shouldn't do 27 different paint schemes.
Yes.
Bad enough doing 4 or 5.
I'm glad I missed all that.
Oh God, it was horrifying.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, oh, by the way, you'll be QAing. Imagine if you QA'd all 27 versions.
Just imagine if we'd done 27 versions of U25.
Yeah.
Do all the LNNs and CNOs. And I think
All
there's 8 versions of Rock Island.
Yep.
Paint versions and 3 body styles.
Oh yeah, that would have been so much fun.
Hmm.
Factory would love us because the factory just wants to do one, not 27.
Mm-hmm.
But
and a question if we're ever going to consider doing more 4-axle EMD locomotives.
Of course,
Yeah, we'll definitely consider it.
actually, there might be 1 or 2 in the works
Mm-hmm. We might have
somewhere around there.
We have a lot of people saying that we do a lot of American stuff now, but we have some pretty interesting Canadian stuff coming.
Don't worry. When we have our pitch meetings, Dan Darnell is always pitching some Canadian Pacific thing
Mhm.
and saying that we desperately need to do this. So he's always there pitching them.
Oh yeah. So
The Americans sometimes override him, but still.
I think he's working on what, 2 or 3, without getting into specifics. He's got 2 or 3 Canadian projects.
Well, he did the barrel ore cars.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That was
which-
another hugely successful. Like, you
Yeah.
couldn't believe how successful that project was for
Yeah.
for freight car that we only did in ONR and CN that ran for 20 some odd years, 25 years. That was a huge success.
Yeah,
So
but it's a unit trim.
On a project that is
exactly.
wildly popular also. We get a lot of requests for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we do have our Canadian pitchers and we have our American ones and we have Jordan who's constantly pitching cars. Then we have Josh who pitches buses and everybody has their little thing.
Yeah. We've got what, 5 factories now, so we have 1 factory doing cars, another doing buses, another doing
Mhm.
locomotives, another doing freight cars. It's
We're kind of getting our dream projects done because I've been wanting to do the X72 for a long time.
Yeah.
So I finally got to do that project. That was a lot. That was an interesting project. That was a lot one. So that Santa Fe reefer, believe it or not, was a fun project too, because that's got see-through. We actually put the diesel generator in there. Non-functioning diesel generator, but we put one in there.
Of course, we're going to do the later versions too, right?
Yeah, with the cut downs. We
Yeah.
designed it so we can remove the roof walks and things like that.
Yeah, so some of those lasted well into the 70s. Did they last too far into the 80s? Probably early 80s.
Maintenance way service, yeah.
They were in maintenance way service. They ended up as insulated box cars.
Yeah.
They took the diesel generators out and made them insulated box. They redid the insulation and made them insulated cars.
Mhm.
So,
And that project's a good example of if you pitch us an idea and you've got some background information to help, it gets done. That was pitched by Bob Shaparo.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
yeah. And he had drawings. We had drawings and everything of the car, and which makes the project so much easier rather than, 2 blurry photographs.
Did he have drawings or drawings?
He had drawings. He had drawings for the car.
Shout out.
Shut up, you carpetbagger. What do you know? You're out west.
Dude.
No, we don't say dude.
No, I do.
We say use.
Question about the FPA2s, how the orders are looking. We don't really know yet. We just launched that not too long ago. It was about a month ago now.
Yeah.
We'll do some more promoting on that. We're still too soon to say. And actually, kind of as a bigger question, a lot of the conditional products that we have, like RS18Us and stuff like that, the conditional RS18Us, we really won't know what those orders are until the order deadline arrives. So that's probably becoming either August or September. It's not set in stone yet, but when that arrives, we'll calculate those orders and see how those conditional schemes have done.
Yep. And if we can push forward on them.
Yep, absolutely.
And of course, this summer is all about me. Because I have a bunch of products coming out this summer.
Yep, absolutely.
I have 2 more coming up. One's next month, and I believe 2 more the month after. So it's all about me.
It's always
We've got a question.
There are other people in this company, John, who work.
No,
on
there aren't. There's only me and Zool.
We've got a Rapido UK question, whether
Paul can answer that.
but oh, wait.
whether or not there's going to be Rapido UK live streams. So here's the thing about Rapido UK, they're their own thing. Yes, they're a kind of subsidiary of Rapido, but they have their own team of guys over there, their own offices. We actually had to do that I guess that's for the UK laws that are in place there. So it's actually a separate company officially based out of the UK. So that would be a good question for those guys. They actually have their own Facebook page, their own YouTube page. I think they have a YouTube page up now, and their website. It's totally separate from Rapido North America. So drop them a line over there.
They just force us to answer obscure quiz questions about rural England.
Oh yes, we had a trivia event during our team meeting last
Friday.
With all these obscure questions about
Leeds,
village, something like that, some village in the UK that most of us hadn't heard of. So.
Yeah. The last time we heard about the Celtics, the Celts were rampaging it.
Yeah.
Celts.
The Kilts. Quiet, Scotsman. So yeah.
All right.
Yes, there are 5 factories.
Yes, there are many.
So far.
So far.
Oh, the other thing that should be leaving soon is the steam generators, steam heaters.
Yes.
Are those? I haven't seen any production shots yet, but I've heard that they're pretty good. They're pretty close, and I believe the X31 PRR box cars are pretty cool as well.
This is a 1644 question.
Sure.
I can't remember if the CNs had. I believe the CN units started with the bell underneath, and they moved the bell to the long hood. They actually moved it. They removed it from the underneath, but there are a few photos with them both.
Now, is that during the green era or during the noodle era? I
don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's both.
Neither.
Both, neither, some, one or other. Like I said, I finished the research on that a long time ago. But somebody asked the question. I seem to remember that. And I seem to remember reading about it, that they literally did take the bell and move it to the long hood. So for the most part, they got moved.
And yes, just a reminder, if you haven't watched it yet, we do have a silly little YouTube video, 3-minute YouTube video, kind of begging for H16 orders. So
with Jordan's sad dog.
Yeah, she's very sad. I don't know. It just worked perfectly. We did that almost in we filmed that in 10 minutes. And she stared at the camera the whole time. And except that one part where she buries her head behind it.
It looks so funny. And yours truly makes an appearance without credit. Not screen credit. I'm calling the Screen Actors Guild.
It was a file photo. So
yeah, it's a file photo. You should put a number underneath me and stow me in the post office.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordan.
Yep.
Somebody's asking if we're ever going to do any more CSX B36-7s in other paint schemes.
Not any plans to right now. Never say never, but I don't know right at the moment. It's quite likely we might do another run again, maybe with some of the schemes we did in the run that we just announced, because that was just a very limited, quick production run that we threw to the factory to keep them busy for a little while. So if they've done quite well, so maybe we'll do another run and maybe some original paint schemes at some point again too. We did only do DCC in this release, so they'll come back again at some point with DC units available.
We'll come back around to them.
Oh yeah.
And Ryan Curtis wants to know why we haven't done a TH&B locomotive. We might.
I don't think we've tooled a TH&B locomotive yet.
Not yet.
Oh, well, they had
but I know of one.
they had Jeep 9s and they had SWs, a couple different SWs.
Yeah. Will an SP U25BE be in a future release? Didn't we talk about that already?
Now which one is that? Is that the rebuild?
That's the rebuild. The 6800, 6801, 3100, 3101, and the Bicentennial.
I'd like to.
So would I, John.
For me, I'm aiming for to model kind of that late 70s kind of period, and I think most of the U-boats were gone by.
I'd be more happy to, but no one models SP.
What?
Everybody models SP. Hey, what was their number one? What was their number one?
Yeah. Yes, SP does very well for us.
The SW 1200, I think, pretty much blew all the other road names out of the water by a long shot. So
yeah, as far as SP goes, that'll be a pitch battle with guns and knives between Jordan and the rest of us. Which ones we do? We will be doing SP. It's just a question of which ones we're doing.
Exactly. There were so many. The problem with SP is they seem to renumber them every few years.
Yeah.
And there are paint scheme variants through the years also, and lighting variants. But that's what makes SP fun.
Well, even later on, I think they didn't, because they were only the majority of them were retired when they were barely 10 years old. So they had all these relatively new diesels they didn't know what to do with in the deadline. So they kept doing different rebuild projects, and the Sulzer sets that didn't last too long. I think they spent more time in storage than they actually did running. But
Paul's beard does have a name.
What?
Somebody asked.
Yeah. Did you see who?
Of course I did.
Cutler, and the beard is third.
Yes, I know. Look who it is.
Yes.
Somebody's asking for Erie E8s. Just because we didn't do it in the first run doesn't mean they won't be coming later.
No.
Did we do Erie Lackawanna in the first run?
We did.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we did Erie Lackawanna is they ran them on their piggyback trains.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember if those.
We're making them without portholes, unlike any other manufacturer in the past.
Yes.
That's another one of those projects that was a hugely. I mean, we haven't even come to the order deadline yet for the main production run, and that's been hugely successful.
And I think the Erie ones are actually easier than the Delaware and Lackawanna ones. I seem to remember talking to Bill about that. I forget which one was the easier one. So will Erie show up? More than likely. So same with Delaware and Lackawanna.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do Southern Pacific units yet either.
Yeah.
But according to you, Southern Pacific doesn't sell. We didn't do Rio Grande WP units either. Of course, they never had any.
that's a slight problem.
Exactly.
We do Rio Grande WP U25Bs next run.
There you go.
They didn't have any.
Thanks, Craig, for all that information. You're just a fountain of knowledge.
We're all foobies all the time.
I think speaking of units, let me share some photos, because we have the first tooling shots from the factory. This is very, very early stuff. This hasn't been refined yet. We don't even have them. They're going to be in. I think they're being sent now. So there's some of the parts. We got pilots there. There's
a bajillion parts to this.
Can you go back one again?
Interior.
Oh, cool. The UP snow shields. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
The porthole windows, all the GPPS parts.
Why aren't those painted Rhodamine Red?
They haven't gone to the paint shop yet.
So this is actually neat. This is all of the panels, the insert panels. So I'll show you the shells in a second. But as you can see, we've got every different variation. So every railroad almost seemed to have a different version of where the portholes were. We've actually done via on one unit that I think the panel was flipped. So we've actually tooled that. We've got the blankout panels, different panels with sand hatches, different
Porthole arrangements.
porthole arrangements, everything.
Hinged and non-hinged.
Yep.
Bill was about to be committed when he was doing all these variations.
There's the chassis with all the plumbing and stuff like that. That's not including all of the separately applied stuff. Is that the B unit or the A unit? That's the B unit, and we got the A unit
Yep.
frame. Roof hatches.
Fuel
and
tanks.
Shells. So we have a ton of different shells, different noses. There you can see where the slide insert, or the inserts go so we can do pretty much every porthole arrangement or blankouts in that case. Roof hatches for the non-dynamic or dynamic units. I'll see if I can find the lineup. See all the detail behind the grills there.
Yeah.
No warp.
We didn't have these this morning then, right?
These are just factory photos. These haven't actually arrived yet.
You guys were holding out on us. I mean, we didn't see the photos this morning.
There's the B units,
Yeah.
and there's all the noses. These are all, we've tooled a different shell for each nose variation. So you can see they all look the same at first glance, but if you look at them, we've got different hatches, receptacles, different
Yeah.
positions of the different hatches. These are all the different versions.
The fourth from the left will be the Amtrak 4316, the black
Yep.
engine.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've done a shell just for 4316. I don't know if that applies to any other.
I think there are a few others. In
Yeah,
Amtrak
yeah,
we
some
can
of them.
paint.
Yeah.
And of course, somebody invariably asked, which I knew it was coming, like within 3 minutes, is, are we doing E7s? Well,
Well, the one thing about these are the E7s had the different number boards, so I mean, I'm sure we'll do them at some point, but we can't really use this particular tooling because of the.
no, this is the E8s, the E8 and E7s are different
Well,
creature.
But that's,
Some of the E8s had a different number board too, and I don't see that one here.
We do have them. The Pensy had different ones.
yeah.
Well, I'm talking Santa Fe and somebody else. Oh, Rock Island had F unit type number boards.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Bill made it sure that all the different number boards would fit somehow.
Yeah.
So
And I'm sure we'll do E7s at some point.
And then he had his breakdown.
I think this is one of Paul's earlier manifestos he wrote up. Wasn't it, Paul?
Yes.
On the E8s.
Yeah, but we never we had a session and then we never did a second one, so.
Too late now.
Close up. And you can see some of those hatches. You can see where the class lights go.
Yeah, it's left, right, both,
And
neither.
of course, this nose and the entire body. So everything in this shell was built off of a 3D scan. So the body contours, the nose contours, the shape of the window, everything was scanned. And that was down at the Southern California Railway Museum in Paris, thanks to Craig.
And a shout out to the volunteers there who let us in to spend 2 days scanning locomotives.
Yep, and that was in the middle of COVID too. So
And 100-degree weather, which my daughter, who went with me, hated. How long is this gonna take?
All day.
But
Forever.
You got to pay off. You'll see it at the end of the video when we release that.
yeah, exactly.
Then it's all good after that.
We have another video for the U25 coming out pretty soon. Jeremy's he's been burning midnight oil until 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get those videos done. So
Wouldn't that be 3 o'clock oil, not midnight?
exactly, it's late. I was working
Late in the evening.
I was working till 1 o'clock in the morning last night too. So
Like, again, nobody wants to know what Jeremy is doing. Don't ask,
no,
because you will get an answer that you will frighten you.
He's very good at it.
Yes,
Hey,
he is.
somebody
He's
else asked a
outstanding.
question that I'll throw to you guys. Is 3D printing at the manufacturing level going to enable smaller production runs of obscure prototypes?
Definitely possible. We are fudging with that right now.
Yeah, it will take a little more development in 3D to make like F unit noses smoother.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certainly things that will lend themselves to 3D printing very nicely.
Yeah.
And some things won't. But
Like I said, very short run detail parts would be a prime candidate.
Yeah, and possibly detail parts to put on road specific engines as well,
Yep.
instead of putting tooling.
Just very
Or
quickly,
flat car load.
here's the, this is the B units showing a couple of the.
Engine crews.
Yep.
Mhm. Pretty soon we'll be Star Trek and just print our stuff, right?
We'll replicate one.
Replicate it.
Then somebody will decry, what happened to the hobby when you could just push a button and replicate it.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Then we can do my radio controlled pigeons.
What?
Yes, you keep pushing for those radio controlled pigeons.
He does.
Yeah,
That shows up in the
pigeons
video
yard,
at some point.
pigeons will flutter away from the grain cars. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. What DCC function would that be?
Hey,
Just-
Noah McAllister. That's all I'll say.
I should probably insert our normal disclaimer that these are very, 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 very early shells. We haven't even seen these yet, so they haven't been, we haven't actually been able to check them and look at them. These are just photos from the factory. There may be some things that
Yeah.
need to be updated still, so just keep that in mind. This is.
Yeah, these are tooling samples.
I think you left out a vary in that list, though.
I think we could add a couple more in there probably.
You only said 4 varies, and ought to be at least 5.
Yeah. So that's the units. You want to see another shot?
No, I just think it's funny that you look at the backup lights are on opposite sides, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
Depending on the prototype.
That's what happens when the railroad puts them on instead of the builder.
All right, I'm not sure if I have anything left to share. We've been doing this almost 2 hours now.
Yeah, I think we're good.
What about your dog? Oh,
She's
he.
actually here. She's
He's in
around
the video.
She's sitting by the door. I
Well,
think
we'll make people watch the video. To see it.
she's waiting to go out, I think.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is that?
What's that?
What breed is it?
She is a cardigan Welsh Corgi. Not a Pember. She's a bit of a different breed of Corgi.
You can wear her like a sweater.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey,
She
Jordan,
looks like she's got a sweater on.
Jordan, did you see the one of the latest questions there?
No, I missed. What was that?
Are you guys doing any more MBTA stuff in the future? Have any of you guys been to Cape Cod in Massachusetts? Yeah,
Hey, wait a minute. Let me look out my window. I can look towards Cape Cod.
I used to work for the Cape Cod Central for a whole
Yeah.
month. So yeah, it was weird.
Even as Californians been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if it's up to John, we'll be making sailboats. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, DCC.
DCC sailboats.
Tugboats.
sailboats.
I see Cape Cod every time I'm out in the sailboat
Mhm.
because we sail in between.
And when you're out on your sailboat all summer, when are you going to work on all these new projects, John?
I work on them on the boat
Oh, okay. While you're racing.
while I'm racing. I do that at the same time.
Yeah, that's why if he has trouble keeping the color in the lines on the artwork, because he was doing it on the boat. So,
I was doing it on the boat and the mouse is skipping.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, I do race boats.
Yeah.
I race sailboats.
Got a Wi-Fi
In
antenna.
a bathtub.
Very big bathtub full of all kinds of sea life.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Great. Well, this has been almost 2 hours, so I guess that's about it. Do we have anything else we want to discuss before we sign off for the night?
Well, nothing we can't. I think we've almost run out of stuff we can discuss.
Does this look infected?
Oh my God.
No comment.
He threw
Go
the
back to Pacific Standard Time, you.
Who invited him?
I know.
I don't know.
Jordan did. I figured this would be my only appearance, so bye. everybody.
Jordan.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be back again. We have a
Okay.
couple of projects that you might be interested in. So
Oh, yeah.
you're contributing to.
Doing things.
Like I said, you can mention Jordan before you go, like you like to do.
Uh-oh.
Mention our comment, our suggestion box, our
Oh,
online
yes.
suggestion box.
Yes, I
And
haven't
submit
shared that
Mexican
before.
road names.
Stand by for 1 second there. 1 moment, please.
Because a bunch of people asked about that today. It said there's a suggestion box.
So 2 things. I need to put these kind of notifications after every or somewhere in every live stream. So we do have the suggestion box. If you're on our website, this is actually a U25 page. If you go to contact and click on product suggestions, and this is the product suggestion form. Fill out whatever you're interested in, eras, if you've got drawings or photos or anything that might be interest to us that would kind of convince us to do a project, fill it out here. And then if it's something that we're really interested in or we think it's interesting,
And the answer is yes, we do go through these quite routinely.
Yes, yes.
And we've already got a couple projects in the works that we culled from here.
Yep. And we actually have, I think we put this live, what, 3 months ago? We've received something like 2,000 requests and suggestions. And it all goes into the database. We look at that. If people ask for, if 150 people ask for one locomotive, it calculates that.
But if one person asks 150 times, we also notice that too.
Exactly.
No cheating.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does compile who asked. But you could ask for a whole new locomotive or car. You could ask for just a new road name.
Exactly.
It's got a lot of flexibility. So.
And the other thing I always make a point of is our delivery schedule. You never believe how many emails we get and comments saying you don't provide any information about when a project is due or when it's shipping or anything. So we do, and here it is. I always like to mention this. On our website, we've got our complete delivery schedule. Some of this is going to change. We mentioned the RS11's been punted a little bit because we got some revisions to do. The D10, we're sorting that out as well. But everything is here. Every project. This is all our HO scale projects. Stuff that's in production, that's shipping. What the status is. So that's all there. We've got our N scale projects. We've even got, actually, I think we actually have a couple that still have to be added there. The B100 we announced a couple weeks ago. I believe that still needs to be added onto the list.
And I'm not surprised a lot of customers haven't found that because this is news to me. I didn't know this was there.
We have this. It covers all currently announced Rapido products. We've got all our HO scale vehicles, the buses, the trailers, the status of everything. So please.
I'll be sending that to some people I know.
Yeah. And like I usually mention, there isn't a secret schedule. So if some people look at this and they look at it and then they send us an email asking us what the real schedule is. When people ask, we refer to this, and then that's what we have. So that's that.
And again, these are just what we've announced for the most part. The things we haven't announced yet, we don't put them up yet.
No, of course not. Of course not.
And
because we're that mean.
Ryan Curtis asked if he can ask for autographed photos. You can find most of us in the post office, in any United States post office. just look at the pile on the clipboard that say most wanted.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's us. I don't know if they do that in the Canadian post offices.
Yeah.
John, it's probably most unwanted.
Yes, most unwanted.
Mm-hmm.
Paul's beard signed separately, by the way.
I was on the radio in college. For a friend's kid.
Just in terms of other live streams we have coming up, we'll probably do another one around the middle or late this month, or not this month, next month, because we're almost into July now.
Oh wait, I'll be in that one too.
You will be in that one, so
so you get to see me again.
Yes, John has another project that I'm actually very excited about.
Yep.
For certain.
What is it?
It's a thingamajabber.
Thingamajabber, yes.
A doohickey.
It's safe.
It's a widget.
So that's going to be another. That's going to be another launch coming up, and
it's a floor wax. It's a dessert topping.
So we'll do that, and then we will. I'll also be showing up at the Train World live stream on the 27th of July. I believe it's the 27th of July. We have a special Amtrak event that we're participating in. So I'll be there. I'm not sure if anyone else on our team's going to be there, but a few of the other manufacturers will be involved. And Matt Donnelly from Amtrak's going to be in there too. So.
And one of the other things we're kind of looking forward to is that the train shows are starting to open up starting in the fall. So you'll actually see us in live 3D versions.
Yep. The Springfield show is coming up in about a month. Matt Gentry, he's going to that one. I'm not sure. Is he going alone?
Not Springfield. No, he's not going to Springfield in January.
Spring Sorry,
Nebraska?
He's going to RPM.
Freudian slip. So it's the Spring Creek show in
Yeah.
Deshler, Nebraska.
I said I'd go, but nobody would let me.
Yeah.
I'm too
That's a
embarrassed.
great show. That's a fantastic show. There's a lot of good rail fanning around there too.
Bill and I will already be going back to Cocoa Beach because Cocoa Beach is going to be open in January 2022. So
Yep.
Bill and I will be there. I'll be giving a seminar on the Framer Jammers.
Mhm.
So
And no train fest, but is Springfield is a go, I believe.
Springfield is a go as of right now. Yep.
Excellent.
Somebody asked about St. Louis RPM, and I think I want to say Matt was going. Matt's going to St. Louis RPM.
I think they're only like a week apart, aren't they? The spring
Yeah.
show in St. Louis.
I volunteered for, but no, I'm too embarrassing.
Well, yes. That's why we keep you virtual.
Yeah. And one of these days we're actually going to be able to cross the border again.
Yes.
So, I haven't been in the U.S. since since the PA launch in Portland, Oregon, back in 2019. It was just before COVID.
And I was in Toronto like the first week in March last year.
Yeah.
It was right the week after I left is when they shut everything down.
I had
Tijuana last week.
I had a flight to LA on like the 18th of March or something like that, and it was the day after they closed, or the day after they closed the border was my flight. So I'm glad that worked out.
Yep.
If it's back here.
Anyways, going off on a tangent. So it's 9 o'clock.
Let's go home.
Yep.
It's only 6 here.
What's that?
It's only 6 here.
Time zone Timmy over there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about it. I'm gonna let the dog out. Thanks for joining us, everyone. If you missed anything, this is going to be uploaded. It's going to be on Facebook and it's going to be uploaded to YouTube as well. Probably in the next couple of days. We got a lot of YouTube videos going up in the next little while.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Jeremy's working extra innings to bring these videos to you.
He's burning the midnight oil at 3 a.m.
Pacific time.
That one. So, all right.
All right, guys.
Have a good one. Okay, take care.
Bye.